Yes!
What's going on, guys? Josh from soccerreviewsforyou.com, bringing you my review plus on-feet video of the Adidas Nemeziz Tango 17.3 turf in the new Pyro Storm Pack colorway. This is basically the turf version of the very popular takedown model in the form of the Nemeziz 17.3. We're going to talk details in regards to fit, feel, performance, and of course take a look at how they fit and feel on feet as well. So if you're interested in learning more, please stick around, watch the entire video, and if you're interested in a pair for yourself, I'll leave a little pop-up on screen, or you can click the first link down below. That'll take you to the review page on my website, where you'll find buy it now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes, where you'll be able to pick these up below their normal $90 retail price. There is one key difference between the upper on the firm ground Nemeziz 17.3 and the turf version that I'm holding here in my hands, and that is the fact that this does not have the mesh-based synthetic. Instead, you'll find a textile-based synthetic in the forefoot area, the two parts of the midfoot, and then technically in the heel as well, although that part is fairly insignificant because you have a plastic heel counter back here. Now, again, you'll immediately notice that this is not a mesh-based material. Instead, it's a textile-based synthetic, which basically the difference is that this is a little bit thicker and a little bit more rugged. It's going to be more durable and hold up better on a turf playing surface, which obviously this is made for, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later in the video. Another distinct difference is that because of this material, for whatever reason, they actually added an extra seam right here, which I'm personally not too crazy about putting a seam in such a prominent area where you're going to be making contact with the ball pretty much all the time, if not every single time that you touch it. And this little seam does create for a bigger bump than I was honestly expecting. You notice it the first time that you put them on, but it's something that you do get used to pretty quickly. And again, it is only a $90 price point shoe, so how much can you really expect? Not my favorite design element, but it does feel okay. And for the most part, the textile material, I would say, is on the thinner side. It's gonna provide a slightly padded barefoot feel. That's the best way to describe it. And also something that's kind of interesting is it does seem to have non-stop grip dots on the surface of the upper in this particular area, which is really, really unusual. You would usually only find that on a top-end model. You're gonna find that same textile synthetic in this area right here, basically where you have the Adidas stripes, and then it's left fully exposed here on the medial side, which I really have no issues with, just meaning that there is no polyurethane top layer over top of that particular surface. You're gonna find the signature torsion tapes of the Nemeziz line, where you actually see the Nemeziz branding. So a V cut across the forefoot through the midfoot, and then another V cutting through the midfoot into the heel area, again wrapping around both sides. You're gonna find that the central portion where the laces are positioned features kind of like a neoprene elasticated material, and then you're gonna find one of the agility bandages, elasticated of course, around the top, kind of creating this mid-cut collar-like look, where obviously you have this extreme V shape that I think looks really cool, but the back does come up a little bit higher. Can cause some issues in regards to chafing. That's what I've found, just because of that little stitch that they put right there. But there are also some other complications with the heel of the shoe that we'll talk about a little bit later in the video. You of course have the central lacing system using the dual lace hole setup that does allow you to get a pretty good amount of tightness and security inside of the shoe, along with those torsion tapes. It's definitely not the most responsive thing in the world, but it does get the job done overall in regards to lockdown, I would say. There's not really any big issues through the midfoot, forefoot, and toe box area. The heel area of the boot features an internal plastic heel counter. You'll notice that the liner is a nice, smooth synthetic material, has a little bit of softness to it, and a good amount of padding back there as well. And it does feature a removable insole, although it is definitely on the cheaper side, and it is partially glued down. You'll find basically a little bit of glue on the bottom just to help hold it in place, but you'll notice that it isn't actually a fully formed kind of 3D molded insole, if you will. It's just a flat piece of foam with a liner on top. So again, on the cheaper side of things as far as insoles go, but it is nice that it is removable because you can change it out for something else, something better if you want to. The outsole is of course specifically designed for turf, which does confuse some people. Now, as far as a midsole is concerned, before we even get into that, there really isn't much of one. It's pretty much just straight up rubber, and the cushioning you get from the insole is what you get. The reasoning behind that is because you're technically supposed to be using these on turf, which should be slightly padded, which is where you're gonna get your underfoot cushioning, so they don't need to build it into the shoe. The outsole, however, is solid rubber, as you can see, and it features these little kind of nubs, I guess that's the best way to describe it, running throughout the entire bottom of the shoe, kind of typical turf shoe layout. It's got its own unique design, but in my experience with all kinds of different turf shoes and different layouts, they all perform just about the same on a turf surface. surface. So what exactly is turf? Let me clarify. Turf is technically the rough carpet material that you would generally find in an indoor complex. Sometimes they have it outside, but it's really, really rough carpet, very shallow surface, which is why you don't necessarily need cleats for it. You just need these little nubs, and that's enough to have proper traction. Where else can you use a turf shoe though? You can use it on artificial grass, which is the fake plastic grass with the rubber pellets scattered throughout. This will work on that surface in terms of providing decent traction, but obviously it's not going to provide as aggressive of a traction that you can get from something like an AG stud pattern, something that actually does have cleats, but obviously they're not as long as a firm ground or a soft ground cleat would be. You can also use turf shoes technically indoors or on any kind of flat surface. This one in particular though, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, mainly because they did use a particularly hard rubber, and you're gonna notice that the turf nubs are actually fairly long on this particular turf shoe. So I would stick to using these on turf or artificial grass. And keep in mind that if you do use these indoors, you're not necessarily gonna get the greatest traction, and you're going to wear away the turf nubs a lot more quickly than you might expect or might necessarily want. So again, I would strictly use these on turf as well as artificial grass playing surfaces because that's what they're intended for. In regards to weight, these aren't very light. In a size 9 US, they weigh in at 10.8 ounces, which isn't necessarily heavy. It's kind of on par for other shoes in this particular category, especially when you're talking about turf shoes. They tend to weigh a little bit more just because you do have this thicker rubber on the bottom, and rubber is pretty heavy. It doesn't really matter how light the upper is. If you're strapping a whole bunch of rubber to the bottom of the shoe, that's why the weight goes up. Do they feel super light on your feet? No, not necessarily. So if that's something that you're looking for, maybe this isn't the best turf shoe option for you. But if you don't really mind the weight of the shoe being a little bit higher than average, you shouldn't have any issues with the weight here. As far as the look of the shoe is concerned, it's a Nemeziz, so it features a heavily striped design. Some people love it, some people hate it. I personally really like the look of the Nemeziz. I think it's the best looking shoe from the Adidas brand at the moment. And of course, it's part of the Pyro Storm Pack, this particular pair, which means that it is bright orange and black as the two main colors on the shoes, obviously within the stripes. You even have it within the laces. And then the outsole is pretty much solid black with a nice bright orange zigzag running through the middle. Overall, I actually think this is a pretty decent looking turf shoe, but I'd be really curious to hear your opinions down below in the comments. Do you love them? Do you hate them? Why or why not? All right, so as you can see, I swapped out the stock black and orange laces for some junior length black reflective SR4U replacement laces, which obviously don't look that much different, but they are shorter than the stock laces that I think are a little bit too long. And given the design of this shoe, you can't really tuck the laces away anywhere. So having less slack is ideal and my preference. So if you are interested in a pair of SR4U replacement laces for yourself, the website to go to is www.sr4ulaces.com. There'll be a little pop-up on screen, as well as a link down below in the description. So if you're interested in a pair, be sure to go ahead and check that out. On feet, there's one thing that I immediately noticed with this particular shoe, and it's the same issue that I had with the firm ground model, although not quite as bad, and that is the fit in the heel. It's just really shallow for whatever reason. And this is always the case with Adidas takedown models. I don't know what they do to make it fit like this, but my heel just doesn't sit deep enough inside the shoe. The bottom of my heel feels like it's way up here. So there's only a little bit of this heel area that's kind of containing my foot inside of the shoe. There is a slight bit of slippage, not to the point where I would say it's detrimental to the feel and performance of the shoe, but it's annoying. It just doesn't feel right. And if you buy a Nemeziz 17.1 as an example, which obviously isn't available in turf, that's just not an issue. It's got a proper depth to the fit. There is kind of a similar issue with the 17.2 variation of the shoe as well. So again, it's just something that bothers me. I know a lot of people have these shoes and it doesn't bother them whatsoever, but if you've tried the 17.1 and then go back to the 17.3, that is the one thing that really stands out to me. Everything else about this shoe is really nice. The upper feels good quality, especially considering the lower price point of this particular shoe. It does not feel cheap by any means. It's comfortable, it's soft on your feet, and it has that kind of Nemeziz sensation that you get across the entire line. This outsole is not overly stiff or anything like that either. You feel nice and close to the ground, kind of typical turf shoe stuffs. And as far as the width is concerned, they've got a decent amount of width to them. They're gonna fit just about everybody, I would say. Not super, super wide, but I think most people aren't gonna have too many issues. And as far as sizing is concerned, I'm wearing my usual size 9 US here, and the fit and the length is pretty much perfect. So if you are looking to order a pair of these for yourself, I would strongly recommend going true to size in order to achieve the best possible fit. Really, again, my only issue here is the fit in the heel. Alright guys, so that is pretty much it for my review of the Adidas Nemeziz Tango 17.3 Turf. I like almost everything about the shoe. My one issue, just like the firm ground model, although I don't think it's quite as bad here, is the fit in the heel. It's a little bit too shallow for my liking, but if you can deal with that, if that's something that does not bother you, then I definitely think that this is a solid turf shoe if you're a fan of the Nemeziz line. Again, if you're interested in a pair for yourself, you can click the first link down below. That'll take you to the review page on my website, where you'll find buy it now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes, where you'll be able to pick these up below their normal $90 retail price. As always, if you have any questions, leave them down below and I'll definitely get an answer out to you as soon as I possibly can. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to support it with a like. Subscribe if you haven't already for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. All my social media information linked in the description as well. And other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. And as always, thanks for watching.